offers to you. And what makes tonight's majlis important is that the last majlis, which is next Thursday, will be based on one aspect that I will be discussing today. And I would request you to just focus on what I'm going to tell you today, primarily because we will be discussing something which is part of a discussion that takes place on a very detailed level in the Hawza. And it's not always a majlis should be wahwa or stories, or sometimes there has to be some academic value to go back with. And so it becomes important that I want to present to you something that is discussed very in detail in the Hawza, but a very brief discussion. This belongs to a discussion on Ilm al-Kalam. Now, you know, Ilm al-Kalam is something, is an official name that is given to what we discuss in the Madaris as Aqaid. So you've got a Dars of Fiqh and you've got the Dars of Aqaid in the previous days. Now it's all amalgamated into MCE. But you would have, when we were studying in the madrasa, you recall, we'd have Dars of Fiqh and Dars of Aqaid and Dars of Akhlaq and Dars of Quran. This Dars of Aqaid in the Hawza is referred to as Ilm al-Kalam. And Ilm al-Kalam discusses everything that is related to Usul al-Din, from Tawheed to Ma'ad. It's a very detailed discussion. You got books like Baba Hadi Ashar of Allah Mahilli, and then you go into Sharh Tajreed and I'tiqadat of Sheikh Saduq and Sahih Tasheeh al-I'tiqad of Sheikh Mufid. And it's a long discussion, a long journey for consolidating one's aqaid. But today I'm just going to present to you one aspect about Ilm al-Kalam, in one aspect of Ilm al-Kalam that many of us face it, and specifically people like us, we get a lot of questions, specifically with regards to certain rulings of Islam and certain ta'alimat of Islam. And we get people and we get youths coming to us that, how is it that this is related to this? We don't see any relation between them. We don't see any interaction between them. It doesn't the mind, it doesn't strike the intellect how this can take place. And you get specifically in today's Western world. And these are specifically those kids and the youths that keep coming. Even elders come to us. And so today's lecture becomes very important. Those with kids, those with siblings, those with younger brothers and sisters. You might want to take note of it and then explain to them whenever an opportunity arises. You get married, you get children, and then your children asks. These are very important stuff. Otherwise, then they start developing question marks on Islam that the Mawlana, the Sheikh, the Fulan, Ayatullah, the Maraji give these reasons, but it doesn't make sense how these are related. And so there's a fundamental thing that we need to understand. Look, the Quran says that Allah runs the entire show of the universe, the entire functioning, the entire running of the universe based on certain laws. These laws are referred to as the Sunnat of Allah. The singular is Sunnat, the plural is Sunan. And these are specific for everybody. There's no exception unless very few people Allah makes an exception. Certain things there are no exception at all. So for example, kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, everyone will die. There is no exception to it. There cannot be any exception to it. These are rules of God. At times it is that at the start of Surah Mulk, حَسَبَ النَّاسَ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do people think that just by their claiming that we believe in Allah and we believe in the Prophet and we are Muslims and we are doing taslim and submitting to Allah, we will not test them? Definitely we will test them. So imtihan is one of the sunnat of Allah. Nobody is exempt from it. Not even the Holy Prophet, not even Amir al-Mu'mineen, not even Imam Hussain alayhi salam. These are things that are no exceptions. These are for everyone. Just as death is for everybody. If it had to be an excuse for not dying, the best person would have to be the Holy Prophet, but he had to go. If there was one person who was not supposed to be tested for anything, it would have to be Imam Hussain, but he had to be tested. So these are those sunnat of God that don't see any exceptions, and this is what the Quran refers to, وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا. You will not see any change in the sunnat of God. Everybody has to die, everybody has to die. Even after 1200 years, 2000 years, 5000 years, Imam Zamana, when he comes, he will become martyr, he will become shaheed. No exception. In another place, Allah says, وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَحْوِيلًا. You will not see any amendments in the sunnah of God. Now, all these rules of God, these formula of God that run, there's one fundamental rule that supports all of these actions that take place in the universe. And that is a fundamental basis on all the events that take place in the universe. And that is the concept that is referred to as the concept of cause and effect. We've studied this in school, and it is one of the core fundamental concepts on which the entire creation is based. The phenomenon of cause and effect, in Arabic it is referred to as al-illatu wal-ma'lul. Cause, illat. Illat means cause. Ma'lul means effect. Everything in this world is governed and based on this principle of cause and effect. What is this concept of cause and effect? Let me tell you briefly, we've got this half an hour to finish up. The concept of cause, this phenomenon, the concept, this philosophy of cause and effect is based on these two things, the word cause and effect, in Arabic referred to as illat. Illat means cause. Ma'lul means effect. That means anything that takes place in this universe is an effect. It has to have a cause. There can be no effect without a cause. That means nothing in this universe can take place unless there is a cause for it. Without a cause, there is no effect. And in Ilm al-Kalam it is said, if there is no illat, the ma'lul will never come into existence. If there is no cause, the effect will not take place. So very simple in this, we are going slowly and then we will take it forward. When you give an example of illat and ma'lul, so I'll give you very basic. If you have fire, you will have smoke. You see on television what's happening, the bombardment that's taking place. When there is fire, it will result in smoke. If there is no fire, there will be no smoke. The fire is the illat, smoke is the ma'lul, is the effect. Without the illat, there will be no ma'lul. Without fire, there will be no smoke. Similarly, when you see a wetness, the cause of wetness is water. Without water, there will be no wetness, or any sort of liquid that has water in it. Without that, there will be no wetness. So if you see wetness, that is the ma'lul, that is the effect, you have to realize it's got an illat, there's a cause which is water. Now many times, so we're going slowly, yeah? So now we've understood the entire universe is running on this phenomenon, the concept of cause and effect. Without effect, without a cause, there is no effect. Many times, the causes are perceptible to us. We see it, we feel it, we visualize it, we observe it, we discern it, and we perceive it. I'm repeatedly using this synonymous because of what will come further. We see many times the ma'lul, the effects that is there, the cause can be seen, visible, discernible, perceptible. So just like in this case, you have a smoke, you can see fire, you can sense fire, the illat is seen, you get the ma'lul, you get the effect, you come back to the illat can be seen. These are one kind of illat. These are academic discussions, but it is very important when we come to the solution. So bear with me if you're getting bored, but these are things that we need to know. So many times these illat, the cause can be visualized, can be visible, can be discernible, can be perceptible. At times, the effect can be seen, the ma'lul can be seen, but the cause, the illat, is not perceptible. In the sense that you cannot touch it, you cannot smell it, you cannot feel it, you cannot hear it, you cannot taste it. It's not by the senses. For example, you drop an object from the hand. I drop this phone. It'll fall down. We all know, we've studied, what causes the object to fall down is gravity. Gravity is not seen. Gravity is not touchable. Gravity is not tasteable. You cannot hear it. You cannot smell it. The five senses don't understand it. You see the effects. Then you realize you see it's a consequence, and then you realize what is causing the consequence of this phone to drop down and not float in air is something called gravity. So now we've got, for an effect, you got causes that can be visible and discernible, like fire. At times, for an effect, you have causes which is not discernible, like gravity, but you can still understand it because of the consequences. Okay, there is something that is pulling it down. I might not be able to see it. I might not be able to touch it. I might not be able to smell it. I might not be able to understand it by our senses, but I'm seeing certain things taking place, as a result of which I know there is a cause called gravity that is pulling things down. Same thing goes with medicines. When somebody is sick, Dr. Sabio, when you have a sickness, when you have a problem, when you have germs in the body and you use certain medication, you know that medication, consuming medication gets rid of the disease, but what exactly happens inside? What happens? How does it work? We don't know. But we know, okay, something is taking place. So these are 2 points. Now we're coming to the main point. So when you see a core effect, the cause can be visible like fire. At times when you see an effect, the cause is not visible by our senses, but you see certain consequences by means of which we understand gravity exists. At times, and this is where we come to the point where people have problems about Islam, and those so-called intellectuals then try to question Islam based on their non-understanding and lack of awareness of this third one. Many times, there are effects whose causes are neither visible by the senses. So neither the taste, smell, touch, feel, falan, not visible, not perceptible. At the same time, its consequences is also directly not seen, like gravity. You can't perceive, but still there is a cause for it. And that cause is not a physical cause, it's a spiritual cause. So you don't have anything physical that is there. So even when you look at gravity comes as a result of certain forces within the Earth's crust. So the gravity in Jupiter is superior to the gravity on Earth, and the gravity on the sun is even more. That's because of the mass. The more the mass, the more the gravity. Everybody knows that. We've studied in physics. But there are certain effects that you just don't know what's causing it, because everything is spiritual. You can't touch it, you can't feel it, it's just not understandable. You can't perceive it. Gravity, you can still perceive it, even though you might not see it. But there are certain causes you cannot perceive it. For example, Raddu Shams. The Holy Prophet is sleeping on the lap of Imam Hussain, of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. The Asr namaz becomes qada. He gets up and he says, Hal sallayti ya Ali? Have you recited your Asr prayers? He says, no. He says, why? He says, because of the ihram towards you. He says, is that it? He turns to the sun and says, come up. The sun comes up. By the way, over here, let me tell you one thing, yeah? This Raddu Shams, Radd means to come back, to make it come back. That's called Radd. Raddu Shams took place twice in the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. One was done in this occasion at the time of the Holy Prophet. One was done after the death of the Holy Prophet. The first time was done for Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam by the Holy Prophet. Second time was done by Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam himself. That's some other time. It's just to understand, sometimes when you get your resident alams come, you can ask him. And some other occasion when we get munasabah. One before the death of in the lifetime of the Holy Prophet, one in the lifetime of Amir al-Mu'mineen. One the Holy Prophet did for Amir al-Mu'mineen, one Amir al-Mu'mineen did for himself. Anyway, so the Holy Prophet turns and makes an ishara with his hand, and the sun comes up. What physical aspect can you cause that you see that there is a cause that causes this? What physical aspect? There is nothing that you can see that the sun is pulling the sun up. There's no gravity that you can feel it. It just happens, it comes up. Or for that matter, the Shaqqul Qamar. The Mushrikeen says, we don't believe in you, we need some proof. And he says, okay, I'm giving you proof. What do you want? He said, can you split the moon? So he goes outside and looks at this moon and it splits. What? There is no physical structure that will split the moon. There is no such thing as gravity that you can perceive that has caused the splitting of the moon. But it just splits. How? The reason that it splits is because we are accustomed to seeing effects and cause in the realms of the material world. But there are numerous things that take place according to the rules of God, in which the effects are seen, but the causes are not physical, the causes are spiritual. These causes that are spiritual can take place either by Allah or by one of His hujjat of Allah. If it takes place by Allah, then we call it the qudrat of God. If it takes place by a hujjat of God, we call it mu'jiza. Mu'jiza, or the qudrat of God, is a phenomenon in which an effect takes place, but the cause is not physical. And that is why in the Quran, I recited this verse. Quran says, وَإِنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَى وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَى, if the people of the villages, آمَنُوا, they believe in me, وَاتَّقَوْا, and they fear me, لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِ بَرَكَاتٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, we will open the benefits and bounties of the heavens and the earth. Rawat tell us what this means is that Allah was saying, if somebody believes in God, if a certain group in a certain place believes in Allah and he's muttaqi, he fears me, I will make sure that in that places there are no famine. I will bring down sufficient rain to make that place khurram and lush. At the same time, I will open the doors of the earth so that the crops are generated in such a way that there is no shortage of food. Now, if you were to understand and if you were to analyze what is the relationship between the earth growing crops and somebody believing in Allah and fearing God, how? What is the relationship? What is the relationship between somebody believing in God and the rains coming down? We who are so used to the material life of this world always feel if there's a material outcome, there has to be a material cause. But over here, there is no material cause. He says, if you believe in Allah, that means I say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Aliyan Waliullah. I believe in Jibreel, I believe in your books, I believe in whatever you've sent down. That is a reason for rains to come out. How? There is no relation. Allah says, there is a relation, وَلَكِنْ أَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. You do not know, I know, because there's a relation. The relation is my command, which is Surah Yasin says, إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَنْ يَقُولَ لَهُ kun fayakun. For yakun to take place, kun has to take place. That kun, which is not word, it is the irada of God. That irada of God is the illat for things to take place. He will look at an individual and says kun, and an angel will be created. That irada of Allah makes that angel to be born. That is the illat. And hence we find numerous things in our setup. That because of not understanding the relationship between illat and ma'lul, we find people thinking, oh, what is happening? This same thing, when it comes to the Holy Prophet looking at the moon and splitting it, physical cause is not there. What is the cause? The irada of a hujjat of God splits the moon. So a non-physical cause brings about a physical effect. And this is what we find in the lives of the Masumin. When Allah does something physical by means of a spiritual cause, we call that qudrat of God. When a Masum or a hujjat of God does something physical by means of spiritual causes, we call that mu'jiza. And that is why we find in the entire lifetime you've got of all the Masumin, you've got all the Masumin exhibiting mu'jiza. All of them. But there is one Imam who's used mu'jiza more than any other Imam. That is the 11th Imam. This is one of the khususiyat of the 11th Imam. All the Imams exhibited ijaz. Walaikum salam. All the Imams exhibited ijaz. But one Imam who exhibited ijaz, who used ijaz and mu'jiza more than any other Imam, was the 11th Imam. Now, it could be because he had only 6 years of Imamat remaining. And in those 6 years, he had to implement a lot of things. He could not make things go in the normal way because he didn't have time. He knew, I've got 6 more years. After the shahadat of the 11th Imam, 10th Imam, Imam Askari had only 6 years before his shahadat took place. And at that time, he knew in 6 years I have to sort out the affairs so that when my son comes, things are all sorted out. And that could be one of the reasons. A person comes to the 11th Imam. See how sometimes we don't understand, and then because of us not understanding this, our kids start asking us, and then sometimes even we started doubting, oh, ye kaise ho sakta hai? Isme to koi relation hi nahi aa raha hai. Look at this example. Somebody comes to the 11th Imam. Comes to the 11th Imam and says, Yabna Rasulullah, I'm coming from a region where there is, I'm having a drought, no rains. People are dying. There's no food. He says, is it? He says, yes. Imam was sitting down, so he picks up a stick. He writes something on the ground. He says, go. Your mantaqa is not getting rains. He says, Ibn Rasulullah, we're having famine, we need rain. So, no du'as? He says, no. People like us would say, koi taviz waviz nahi hai? We wear it on the night. He says, no, no taviz. Go, rains are come. So, skeptically, he goes back. He goes to his region. It's raining, it's pouring. It's pouring. It's pouring so much, it's pouring so much. There's a fear of flood. He comes running back. In 2 days' time, Yabna Rasulullah, the water, it started. For months we were not getting the water. I don't know what you did. It's raining so much, we are fearing floods. He says, is that it? He picks up the stick and writes something. He says, go, it stopped. It stopped? Yes. He goes there, it stopped. Now, how do you justify this? How do you explain this, accept this? That it is not necessary for every physical action and effect to have a physical cause. Physical acts can have physical consequences, and physical effects can have causes that are non-physical. At times, just the irada of a masoom is enough. Did you know that incident about Amir al-Mu'mineen al-Islam? Somebody, at the time when he was the Khalifa, and and they were always trying to put down Amir al-Mu'mineen al-Islam. Understand this is the basis, and then I'm going to give you 3 or 4, which is very important in our lives to understand. Somebody comes, they say, we need to, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Saluni qabla an tafqaduni. Ask me whatever you want. So let's see, let's test him out. So they take a child, 9, 10-year-old child. So no, we're wrapping you up in a coffin. We're going to place you before Amir al-Mu'mineen al-Islam. And you have to now make sure that you remain silent here. They come, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, my son has died, falan, falan. Can you play namaz-e-janazah? Can you pray? So Imam looks at them, looks at the boy. You want me to pray namaz-e-janazah on this child? He says, yes, yes. So you're sure he's dead, yeah? He says, yes. He says, I'm asking you again, you're sure he's dead? He says, yes, yes, we want namaz-e-janazah. Just put him down. Allahu Akbar, 5 takbir. As soon as the 5th takbir was done, they started laughing. So, Ya Ali, you're saying, Saluni qabla an tafqaduni. I know the parts of heavens more than the parts of skies, more than the parts of the earth. We fooled you. He was not dead. He was not a janazah. You recited namaz al-mayyat on a living person. Imam says, go and have a look. They go and have a look. The child had died. A hujjat of God. When he prays namaz-e-janazah on a person, it is muhal, it is impossible for that person to remain alive. Why? What causes it? When a hujjat of God makes an irada, the universe complies. That is the cause. And that is why you pick up the book of Arba'in Hadithan of Imam Khomeini. When he talks about the wilayat of the queen of the Imam, he says, every single atom of the universe is subservient to the wali of Allah. Every single atom. So they go to the shore and the waves are coming. They will say, stop. That irada of a masoom will cause the waves to stand midway. Because every single atom is muti, is subservient, is obedient to the wali of God. Why? Because the cause for that is the irada of the hujjat of God. And then whatever the irada, whether it is splitting of the moon, whether it is returning of the shams, whether it is making sure that the person, when he recites, the person dies, it's all tabi', it's all obedient to the irada and to the wish. The moment they make that irada, that is the cause for the constant. So now I'll tell you a few things. Having understood that, I want to take you to a few things that we've come from a Masoomin. For example, and this is where I want to take you, to make you understand. I've got 6, 7 minutes, 4, 5 minutes, and then 2, 3 minutes, Messiah. Understand, and the reason I've said I've took 20 minutes just to explain this is to understand that if you understand, your siblings, your children will understand. Go home and tell them when they ask you that every time, it doesn't mean that if you see an effect, you have to see the cause. There will be causes that you have no power to perceive, but it acts behind the scenes. So for example, look at this tradition. Allama Majlisi mentions this, yeah? He says, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. These are ajib, yeah? And don't ask me for when I'm telling you this, the reason. I don't know the reason, but I do know that when an effect is there, there is a cause. And that cause can be perceived by me or not perceived by me. If it is perceived by me, I will accept it. If it is not perceived by me, I will still accept it. Because I'm not supposed to know all the causes that cause effects. Look at what the sixth Imam said. He says, got a tradition. He says, if you comb hair in the bathroom, it weakens the heart. It weakens the hair. The hair, if you comb it in the bathroom, it gets weakened. You start hair falling off, it starts becoming thin, whatever. Rawat says, يضعف الشعر. It'll weaken. Now, don't ask me, what is the difference between inside the bathroom combing the hair and one step I take and I'm outside, I'm combing hair? How does it make a difference? One step inside and one step outside. If I'm inside and I'm combing my hair becomes weak. If I'm one step outside, it doesn't become the weak. I don't know. But those people who know the rules of God are telling us. So there will be a cause that I'm not aware of. Look at the other one. Again, this is fantastic. You can't justify it ourselves. It's just that our belief in the Ahlul Bayt, the Rasikhuna fil Ilm, the entire universe has been created in front of their eyes and said they know the rulings, they know what causes what. Riwayat tell us, the seventh Imam is saying that you should not comb the hair while standing because it weakens the heart. That's why you will never find the ulama and the maraji, those who know, the mujtahideen. You'll never find them combing the hair while standing. They will always sit down. If they're in the house, they will sit down on a stool, they will on the bed, they will sit down onto the ground, they will never comb their hair while standing. Combing the hair standing weakens the heart. And I'm asking you, what is the relationship between combing of hair and the weakening of the heart? Even though this is physical, you still can't give a relationship. But this is what happens. This is what is there. We're not supposed to know all the causes for all the effects. Yes, when Imam Zamana comes, he will tell us. But this is what is said. So you comb the hair while standing, it weakens the heart. Riwayat tell us, إِذَا كَثُرَتِ الزِّنَا كَثُرَتِ الزِّلْزَالِ. In a region where zina and fornication increases, that region will see an excessive of earthquakes. How? You tell me, how are you going to understand this? That when a region where there is two physical interaction between two physical bodies, that has an effect on the cosmos. That brings about the tectonic movement of plates. How? But are we supposed to know everything? Who's ever said you're supposed to know everything? وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Quran says, you've only been given a little bit of knowledge. With that little bit of knowledge, you want to understand the hikmat of God, and then you want to say, oh, what kind of hadith is that? If there is zina taking place in the bedrooms of people in a certain locality, the tectonic plates will move, there will be we learned how earthquakes take place. إِذَا كَثُرَتِ الزِّنَا كَثُرَتِ الزِّلْزَالِ. We got another tradition. If people in a region don't pray zakat, rains will stop. How? You tell me. How is not giving zakat, which is a physical aspect, affect the cosmos? The rain's not coming. That means there is something that causes the rains not to come, but we don't know the causes. And this is where we have to understand. We have to first ourselves understand and submit to it. First thing, وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. You may be the marja of all times. You may be Sheikh Murtada Ansari. You may be Sheikh Falan. You may be Sheikh Baharul Ulum. But وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. What you know is just a very small percentage of the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, non-comparable. First thing. Secondly, if there are certain things that we don't understand, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. In Arabic, we've got a tradition in the house when we are discussing and analyzing, it said, Adamul Wijdan la yadullu ala Adamul Wujud. If you don't see something, doesn't mean that thing doesn't exist. You have not seen it. And that is why when people say, oh, this hadith doesn't exist. What? Have you referred to all the 200,000 hadith from Washal al-Shia and Bihar al-Anwar and Arba Kutub Arba that you say, oh, this doesn't exist? Even if you had gone through all them, Adamul Wijdan, just because you don't find something, La yadullu ala Adamul Wujud, doesn't mean that Hadith does not exist. That ruling does not exist. Many times people come, oh, we've never heard this before. Oh, if you've not heard it, doesn't mean it's not there in Islam. You've not heard it. You get me what I'm saying? This is the point number 2. Point number 3, we're not supposed to know everything. Today I ask you, you pray 50, 60, I'm seeing faces who've been praying for 60, 70 years. Can you ever tell me why is in a ruku, in a rakat, there are 2 sajdas and 1 ruku? And not 2 ruku and 1 sajda? Nobody knows. You may give up this thing, oh, the 2 sajdas is that when you go, it shows that you're coming from the earth, and then you sit down, and that is the time between, you go back again to the earth, so that is the time between birth and death. That is just an assumption. That is not the reason, that is not the core, that is not the actual logic and sabab for it for 2 sajdas. That is a hypothetical scenario. That we will only know when Imam Zamana comes and we ask him. So we are not supposed to know everything. We need to teach our kids, and this is where our kids, we fail. And that is why our kids grow up and then we find out that they say, oh, Islam is not answering to everybody. Islam is not answering all my questions. But you're not supposed to know the answer to all the things. This is very important for us to understand and then pass it on. At times, you just have to put your head onto the ground and says, رَضًا بِقَضَائِهِ وَتَسْلِيمًا لِأَمْرِهِ. We believe what you've said and we submit to what you say. There may be times that our aql does not reach that. And when that happens, then you find that you reach a position in such a way that forget about the Holy Prophet. Even the first creation of God, not the Ahlul Bayt, in human form, Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, he weeps for an entity like Hussein ibn Ali. That is the concept of Messiah. We're supposed to weep for them. The weeping brings about the sentiments and strengthens the iman and the faith. Just as Fadal does. But Messiah does it even more. That strength of Messiah is too much. See what is happening in Iran. The anger, the sorrow, the grief is binding the entire 90 million people. That grief. This, if grief was not there, the binding would not have been so much. And that is why we find Imam Khomeini saying, Ma har che darim az Muharram u Safar darim. All that we've got is because of Muharram and Safar. The weeping, the Masa'ib. Very strong. We got to revise this ayat of Quran, Surah Baqarah, verse number 37, when Allah says, فَتَلَقَّ آدَمُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ كَلِمَاتٍ فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. Says when Adam was taken out and says, okay, now you need to go out of paradise. We don't want to go into what exactly happened because there are different interpretations for it. We don't want to go into controversies and people have different opinions. But whatever happened, he's taken out. When he comes down upon the earth, he started praying. There's a lot of riwayat that tells us what exactly happened, how many days he did, what was he told. But at the same time, he was, فَتَلَقَّ Adam. Adam received certain names. تَلَقَّ آدَمَ مِنْ رَبِّهِ كَلِمَاتٍ. Certain words, certain names. Using that, when he prayed to God, فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ. Allah forgives him. وَإِنَّهُ هُوَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allah is Ghafur Rahim. Rawat tell us, this is there in Kashf al-Ghumma, Tafsir Kashf al-Ghumma. Rawat tell us that before he was taken out, he saw certain names on the saq, on the legs of the arsh. And then he remembered, then he's asking, I saw those, he's asking Jibreel after he's taken down. I saw those names. So basically he's crying, he's weeping. Jibreel comes, he says, why are you weeping? He says, do you not see I've been taken out? Allah has cast me away. فَخْرُجْ مِنْهَا. No, he says, no, I have to go down onto the earth, and now I've been taken away. I want to get back, I'm crying. He says, why don't you pray from those names that you saw on the legs of the arsh? And he says, whose are those names? And he says, these names are Muhammad and Ali and Fatima and Hassan and Hussein. Salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. So he started repeating those names. But he says, whenever he would come to Hussein, he would be overcome by sadness. And he would start to weep. And he's saying, Ya akhi, ya Jibreel, what is this name of Hussein? That is causing me to weep every time I take his name. Not so with the others, but what about him? Jibreel says, Ya Adam, these are individuals who are going to come out of your lineage. But this Hussein will be subjected to such masa'ib that no masa'ib of the universe will be compared to his masa'ib. So Adam is now weeping and he's crying, what masa'ib are you talking about? He says he will be killed in the plains of Karbala alone in a state of thirst. And he would, when he is there alone, and he'll be killed madluman, atshanan, in dhulm and in thirstiness. At that point of time, you should see, and I wish you would see what happens to the son of yours, Hussein, when he's all alone and doing istighatha. Hal min nasirin yansurna. Is there somebody who will help me? And nobody helps him. The only help that he receives are from the swords of the enemies. And then this Hussein, his head is cut off. After his death, his head is cut off at the time of his death. And then the riwayat says, Jibreel says, his head is taken from one city to the other as an animal is taken. And then in addition to that, his family members are taken captives, and they're taken from city to city, and they are and country to country. At that time, Jibreel begins to weep, and Adam begins to weep. Comes into the hands of the Rasulullah. This is probably the first time that you would see a child being born, and at the same time when he's born, Rasulullah is not only laughing but also crying. And he's weeping, and he's weeping. He always, whenever he would see Hussein ibn Ali, he would weep. Riwayat tells us one day he entered into the house of Fatima, and he heard Hussein crying. He turns to Fatima and says, what is malaki? What is wrong? Why is Hussein crying? Allah ama ta'alami, do you not know inna buka'ahu yahzununi, that his crying always grieves me and makes me sad? Don't make Hussein cry. But I turned to Rasulullah and said, Rasulullah, he is in the house of Fatima. His mother is there next to him. His father is there in Medina. You are his nana, and you're still here. And yet when he cries, you say your heart is being bleeding. What would happen had you been in Karbala? And you would find your Hussein surrounded by enemies. And he calls out, is there nobody to help the grandson of the Holy Prophet? What would you say when those بحق محمد وأنت المحمود وبحق علي وأنت الأعلى وبحق فاطمة وأنت فاطر السماوات والأرض وبحق الحسن وأنت المحسن وبحق الحسين وأنت قديم الإحسان وبحق التسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين عليه السلام. परवरदिगारा हमारी इस कलील इबादत को तेरी बारगाह में कबूल फरमा। परवरदिगारा इसका सवाब हमारे तमाम मरहुमीन और मरहुमात को जो है अता फरमा। परवरदिगारा जो भी मरीज़ है इमाम कादिम अलैहिस्सलाम के सदक़े में उनको शिफा कामिला राजिल नसीब फरमा। परवरदिगारा इमाम जवाद के सदक़े में जो भी मक़रूज़ उनके कर्ज़ों को अदा फरमा, जो भी माली बीमा मुश्किलात में उनकी माली में मुश्किलात को दूर फरमा। परवरदिगारा हम अहले बैत के सदक़े में हमारे घरों में, हमारी ज़िंदगियों में, हमारे बच्चों की ज़िंदगियों में जो भी बीमारी बला आफ़त तकलीफ़ परेशानी उन सब को दूर फरमा। परवरदिगार हमारे मरहुमीन की मग़फ़िरत फरमा, उनको बरज़ख़ और आख़िरत का सफ़र उनका आसान फरमा, बरज़ख़ और आख़िरत में तेरा गज़ब और अज़ाब से न महफूज़ फरमा। परवरदिगार हमारा आक़िबत बख़ैर अता फरमा। परवरदिगार हम दुनिया से जाए तो दुनिया और आख़िरत में हमेशा हमारे दिल में या हुसैन, हमारे ज़बान पर या अली हो। परवरदिगार तुझवास्त मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद के हमारे बच्चों की ईमान की हिफाजत फरमा। हमारे नस्ल क़यामत तक सारी और जारी रहे। हमारे नस्ल में किसी को भी जो है वो गुमराह होने ना देना। परवरदिगार हमें हमारे नस्लों में, हमारे तमाम बच्चों के दिलों में अली और आले अली की मोहब्बत कूट कूट कर भर दें। परवरदिगार दुनिया में जो जुल्म हो रहे, सितम हो रहे, परवरदिगार दुश्मनान इस्लाम की साजिश को नीस्त और नाबूद फरमा। इस्लाम को और शियत को सलबलंद और सरफराज फरमा। परवरदिगार जो साजिशें हो रही है, जो बम्बारान हो रहे, शियान मर रहे, परवरदिगार तेरे आखिरी हुज्जत के ज़ुहूर में ताजील फरमा। इन सब के दुश्मनी को परवरदिगार आलम इमाम ज़मान के हाथ से जो है वो नीस्त और नाबूद फरमा। परवरदिगार हमें तौफ़ीक़ अता फरमा कि हम तेरे हुज्जत के आखिरी हुज्जत के अवान और अंसार में शामिल हो सकें। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस